Here we go. Hello and welcome to The Most Significant Bit, a podcast that explores the connections between engineering, technology, humanities, and the arts. I'm Wyatt. This is Noah.
Hi.
Hello, Noah. And today we're going to discuss the bullet train inspired by a bird.
Oh, I love birds.
How exciting! Well, this is a podcast for you. Are you excited?
I'm absolutely elated.
Let's go. Alrighty, let's begin now. Okay, so in this episode, we will discuss when a bullet train was modeled after a bird in order to make it quieter. So we're going to go over the changes that were made, the problems faced, and the unexpected benefits and troubles experienced by the engineer. Actually, very interesting.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear it.
Okay, alrighty. So let's begin in the year 1997.
The best year.
There's a few other of my favorite years, like 1492 or 1942.
What happened on that year?
That's whenever Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Fair enough.
Okay, so anyway, in the 90s, Japan was starting to get big into the public transportation bit just because they happen to live on a small island where public transportation kind of makes sense just because getting jobs around on the island, it kind of makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
I guess they're all in the same time zone, so there you go. But anyway, they're getting really big into bullet trains, and they were the premier nation for it. So anyway, one of the things, rather, one of the problems that they ran into was the fact that obviously the terrain there is very mountainous. Something about
Yes.
islands and volcanic activity and other activities related to that.
Yeah, it snows on Mount Fuji.
It does snow on Mount Fuji. That's such interesting information, Noah.
Yes.
But anyway, so the train would go through the tunnel. And in a normal train, it's not that big of a deal because the train tunnels are made with large tolerance. The train just needs to pass through the tunnel, and the air in front of the train can go around the sides of the train. But in the instance of a bullet train, especially this one specifically, is traveling about 180 to 200 miles an hour, which is how you say quite quick.
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
No, that's how you know
Sanic fast.
Sonic fast. How very exciting. Maybe that's where they got the inspiration from Sonic.
Maybe. Sega is a Japanese company, so
I
perhaps.
know. This is incredible. Well, anyway, the train was moving very quickly in the tunnel. So whenever it's passing through open space, the air that goes off the front of the train is obviously deflected to either side. On top, it doesn't matter. But whenever it goes into a tunnel, the air cannot be deflected to the sides because the train is built to fit the tunnel to a very specific design spec. So as the train would exit the tunnel, all this air that could not pass around the sides is compressed due to the high speed. So as the train exits the tunnel, it creates a very loud boom.
Because it's basically moving at the same speed that the train is, but the air on the outside of the tunnel is not moving at the same speed. Correct?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Okay.
And you know what's funny is we were talking about this earlier before the podcast is like in regards to the specific time frames that Japanese trains run, how they're never late. Just imagine every day at 4:15 exactly, there's a boom that rattles all your dishes out of the cabinets.
Yeah, kids, time to get out the earplugs. The train's coming.
Yeah, I know. We got 1 minute to spare. Like, think of that. Like, it's by clockwork, but it's annoyance by clockwork. But anyway, obviously speaking, the Japanese public were not too happy. They were very pleased to have this wonderful transit network. However, they were not happy, or rather, the people who would buy the tunnels were not happy.
Understandably so.
Understandably unhappy with loud booms. So anyway, the design was proposed to the engineering department. And in 1997 specifically, they entered into a design project in order to come up with a more efficient aerodynamic train that actually, the purpose is to mitigate this sound. The design was proposed to the engineering company, and the engineering company looking into it, they were obviously going to look at all of their solutions, all the things they could style after. And one of the engineers, Eiji Nakatsu, specifically, was an avid bird watcher. And he was able to allude this, or rather relate this, to his hobby of bird watching.
Hippies for the win.
Let's go. So he was able to use the example of the kingfisher, which is a bird he was watching. But what it will do is it will fly above the water, it will see a fish, and it will dive into the water. But the cool thing about the kingfisher is as it dives into the water, it creates a very small splash. This is because it has a very aerodynamic as well as hydrodynamic body that enables the water to form around the beak without creating a lot of inefficiency, as I guess it would
Turbulent
be.
flow.
Thank you. Turbulent flow. That's a good way of putting it. So in this style, whenever it dives into the water, it creates a very small splash. So this is to show how obviously hydrodynamic it is. So using this design, they were able to put this on the train.
Because
So
the train was essentially moving between two different fluids because one, less dense because it wasn't moving as fast, being squished up against another fluid.
that's exactly right. So anyway, whenever they designed the train, they took the design of the Kingfisher in mind. And while the original train was, if you were to think of the word bullet train, this is what you would think of. It has a pointy front end. It's kind of stubby. It looks very similar to what you would expect a bullet to look like.
Yeah, a little bit rounded.
Exactly. So this new train had a significantly longer nose, tapered towards the bottom, or rather tapered towards the track. And this was to, drew its design influence from the Kingfisher. So then, following this, they inputted the new design. The train was used, and they had several advantages. So the test showed the object shaped like the Kingfisher's beak created less pressure waves, and this was therefore the perfect design for the train. So the new Kingfisher beak style was able to produce several unexpected benefits. So not only was there 30% less air pressure, which air pressure is what was causing the sound, it also had the ability to use 15% electricity, and it was also 10% faster.
Hmm. So not only did they get the effects of sound that they were wanting out of it, but they also increased the efficiency and speed of the train.
That's exactly right. And what is interesting is whenever they were testing it, what's really cool is they actually shot bullets through a tube, and they were in the end shooting different bullets of different shapes down a tube. And it just so happened that the bullet shaped like a kingfisher actually was the quietest coming out of the tube. So that actually played into the design. So they literally, just to test it, they shot a bullet through a tube.
Absolutely.
So that's just a design of practical engineering testing for you.
Yeah.
So not only was the original problem solved, that being the train exiting the tunnel very loudly, not only was that problem solved, there was also other unexpected benefits. So that is an example of biomimicry, which is obviously taking the sound, or rather taking the design, off of a creature that has evolved over millions and millions of years, and turning that into a usable engineering design and utilizing those benefits to create a superior product.
Nice.
There we go. Today we covered how nature and evolution of a small creature can have a large impact on modern design. And thank you for listening. I'm Wyatt Irvin.
And Noah Toski.
And there we go. Congratulations, you have a podcast.